Senator Roger Marshall from the state of Kansas joins us. Sir, good to have you with us.
Vince, you got me laughing already. That is great. I can't wait to see the antics. You know, if you can't win the policy argument, stand on your head and make it like it's a circus. But first of all, congratulations on your big announcement. You're taking over the golden microphone for Dan Bongino, so congratulations to you. That's
thank you.
Quite an honor.
That's well, and thank you, and that makes you officially the first United States senator to thank me. So that we are in good company. This is a really nice honor to have that. Thank you.
I mean, that's like shows over the lunch hour, isn't it? I mean, my friends, I don't get much lunch hours, but it's over the lunch hour, and the people listen to it back home on the lunch hour. So you got some big shoes to fill.
I know it, and I'll be thinking about it all the time, Senator. It's going to be great. But this address, let's start with another address to the nation, which is the one that President Trump gives tonight. What do you expect this evening as the president makes his first address as the 47th president now to Congress?
Well, I'm so excited. I really expect President Trump to walk in there and plant the American flag and talk about this American first agenda, that no matter what issue we're talking about, whether it's Ukraine or manufacturing or energy, let's put America first. And I think he can talk about promises made and promises kept already. He may have got more accomplished in 45 days than Joe Biden did in a 45-year career in politics. We've seen a 95% drop in the number of illegal border crossings. I think that American Energy is responding to his executive orders, and more exploration is opening up as well. Yeah. So I think he can talk about promises made, promises kept. Our families feel safer. I just feel the optimism across the country. I feel it back home that we're bullish on America again, that there's better days ahead of us. And I think he'll spell out that plan in pretty much no-nonsense Trump terms, and I'm looking forward to the pep talk he's going to give us.
One of the success stories he'll be able to reflect on today is that border crossings have dropped to record lows, and that hopefully fentanyl has slowed down coming into the country. There's some reports that the cartels are on the run. There are troops from both Mexico and the United States on our border securing things. I mean, you're a member of the United States Senate. It was just last year that the Democrats were insisting they had some big piece of legislation that was the only way we could secure our border. Yeah. It turns out President Trump was able just to use the powers of the presidency and get things fixed.
Yeah, and we saw it happen before when President Trump took over, and then when Joe Biden took over, that it spiked again as well, and almost overnight down 95%. And he turned off this megaphone. Joe Biden's told everybody across the world, come across the country to our country. We'll give you free food, free housing, free health care, free.
Yeah.
And President Trump said, hey, if you come across the border legally, we're going to throw you back across the river here. And to your point about the fentanyl, under Joe Biden, there was 2 million known gotaways. So the Border Patrol saw 2 million people come across the border that they saw them, but they couldn't catch them, didn't touch them. And that's where you would assume the fentanyl was coming across as well. So you would think that now the Border Patrol can better monitor those holes in the wall, so to speak, and catch the bad guys. And we pray to God that there'll be less people dying from fentanyl. It'll take a while, but we'll see those numbers start to come down now. That's
such a huge deal. Talk to me about the Department of Government Efficiency and President Trump's cost-cutting efforts. How do you assess what they're up to so far, and what role might that play in President Trump's remarks tonight?
Oh my gosh, you talked about walking out of a fun meeting with Elon Musk that I was so excited as he talked about just story after story of savings for Americans. Where do I start? The U.S. Treasury, when they send a check out, they get a bill, they're supposed to pay this. There is one field that you're supposed to mark, well, this is the line item, budget item where this money is supposed to go for. But it was optional. USAID never filled out that screen where the money was going to. Medicare Advantage right now, the federal government spent $83 billion more on Medicare Advantage patients if they've been in traditional Medicare. And I would argue that the care is worse as well. So there's great opportunities out there. We want to make sure, look, we're out there trying to save Medicare. We're trying to save Medicaid. We're trying to save food stamps for the people that really need them. So I think it's a great opportunity. I didn't know how we were going to balance the budget before. I got to tell you, we're taking $5, we spend $7 trillion.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming to me to figure out, well, where do we cut and how much? And it was going to be a 25% cut. But I think that Elon and President Trump may have found a fourth to a half of that money I needed. So I'm so grateful.
One area that is important is there's a lot of fraud in these programs, in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. It's not a fiction. It's not like ethereal. It's not just an excuse that people say, there's fraud in that program. It's legitimate. It's been tracked for years. And in fact, it numbers somewhere in the vicinity of Medicare, Medicaid. It's like $100 billion a year that's believed to be fraudulent payments going out the door. That seems ripe for tackling immediately, and that doesn't hurt anybody's benefits, does it, Senator?
No, Vince, you're spot on. I've been talking with retired inspector generals to say, where was this low-hanging money? How are they cheating? And it was just amazing to me that you can really identify some low-hanging fruit where the people were cheating. So medical devices was one of them. So people were getting catheters without even asking Medicare for them. So the company's sending them and then just billing Medicare that somehow they got a provider ID number to do that. So all you have to do is sit there and say, so I'm an OBGYN, as you know, and all of a sudden they're using my provider number and they're sending male catheters to people. Well, maybe one or two of them, but not millions of them. So they can use technology to identify the cheating, artificial intelligence, all those things. This is right up Elon's alley.
So what you're saying, I just want to make sure to dwell on this, because what you're saying is not that there's actually people being helped. There are people who are the people, these medical device salesmen, not all of them, but too many, are stealing money from the federal government, not for the benefit of any patient, but just to rob the government blind.
No, it is that simple. There are fraud schemes out there. So many of my patients back home, I say patients, they're all Kansas constituents now, but I treat them all like they're my own patient now. We're contacting our office over this fraud that they were getting. They were getting catheters at home. They didn't order them. They were getting COVID tests that they didn't order. And behind them it's organized crime. And then by the time Medicare fraud was keeping up with them, they'd moved. Here's one that's going to really upset you, Vince. The people, the inspector generals that were in charge of this, on the fraud for Medicare, were moved over to protect Fauci. 3 of them, they moved over to protect Fauci to form a wall to try to insulate him from people coming after, trying to uncover what all he was doing is wrong. The Government Accounting Office showed us $250 billion of improper payments last year, a lot of those for Medicare, Medicaid, and the person in charge of the OIG, the Office of Inspector General, took 3 of their best people off the job there and moved them over to protect Fauci, if you can believe that or not.
So, I'm sorry, are you saying there were $250 billion of fraudulent payments at what, HHS?
Okay, so these are actually improper payments, not even fraud.
Improper, okay.
So the federal government sent out $250 billion of improper payments, and over half of those were from Medicare and Social Security. But the Inspector General should have picked those up, is my point. Now, we were incompetent to start with, but the Inspector Generals are supposed to be picking them up, but for some reason, they moved Inspector Generals out of the Medicare fraud team, and they moved them over to Fauci, trying to insulate him and protect him in whatever ways they could.
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously one big reason why you need integrity in the culture of these agencies. But another thing is it might be worth spending more money on investigators in order to save more money for the taxpayers, because on the Medicare fraud side, I saw a number. It was something like every dollar that was spent on enforcement saved an additional $10 for the American people, got money back. So that might be an area where Congress could look at, okay, how do we get people in there who can clean all this up?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And again, I've looked at those studies, and again, speaking to these retired inspector generals who were old school, and they just couldn't take it anymore, working under the Biden administration. But that's what they would tell you too. But they got to come to work, right?
Yeah.
You can't do this stuff from home. So I'm all for spending the money, investing it in it as well. I still think a lot of this is going to be technology driven, where as they explained to me, all the different places where people are cheating.
Yes.
That it really is going to be unlocked by technology, and then we need these inspector generals to go after them, and then turn it over to the FBI. Oh gosh, we could talk forever on this, Vince, but the federal government is now subcontracting out with other agencies to go after these criminals. And of course, that's another game. They're using 5 different computer systems, if you will. They don't talk to each other. It is just one mess after another.
It sounds like a lot. And that's why I am happy about these algorithms that Elon Musk and company are using. The algorithms were used against the American people for so long. Now they're being used against the government, thank God, because we got to clean this thing up. Finally, I want to ask you about this bill that you too supported. I heard, we just talked to Senator Jim Justice about this, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. Yesterday, it was presented to the Senate. There was just a kind of a procedural motion, but all of the Democrats blocked it from moving forward. All the Republicans supported it. I mean, how hard is it to get a Democrat vote? This is an obvious piece of legislation: protect women from men who cheat in sports.
Yeah, Vince, think about this: 80 to 90% of Americans do not want biological boys competing against girls. And I've yet to meet a person that can look me in the eye and say that it's a good idea. But at least 80 to 90% of Americans support President Trump, support the legislation, Coach Tuberville's legislation, but the Democrats are just dug in on this. It is a religion to them, and I don't understand their religion. But you're not as old as I am, but I remember in middle school, early 70s, when Title IX was introduced, and it was like day and night.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden the women's sports exploded. And look, I graduated #1 in my high school class, but I learned more on the track field, the football field, the basketball court than I did in the classroom. And to see young ladies getting that same opportunity to learn about leadership and teamwork and heart, all those types of things, to think that, and they work so hard for that. My grandma talks about, she loved basketball, but didn't have the opportunity to play in high school. And all of a sudden these young ladies are getting scholarships. We had a local community college, and not many of us were good enough to go to the university, but the community college, the girls volleyball became a thing, girls basketball, girls track team, all those types of things. And biological boys can make that all go away. It's not fair. It doesn't pass the smell test, but the Democrats are dug in on it, and they're going to get buried on this one. They're absolutely going to get buried on it. Americans sit there and say, if I can't trust them on this issue, how can I trust them on another issue? Yeah. This is just a common sense issue.
Totally. It's totally common sense. And you're right. Every no matter who you are, no matter your sex, like physical discipline is really valuable in life. And it teaches you a lot of character too. Hey, thank you, Senator Roger Marshall. Always appreciate your time. Best of luck to you. Have fun tonight with the President of the United States.
Just thinking, I can't wait to hear you in that earlier time slot from 12 to 3. Can't wait. So good luck with that new job.
Thank you, Senator. Very